I'm Andrew White, and this is my wife, Stacy. We came to know Family Legacy about 8 or 10 years ago. Gabriel was in my group the very first year at Camp Life, and then fortunately was able to be his sponsor at the end of that week, and I've been his sponsor ever since.
My name's Gabriel Mumba. I'm from Zambia. In 2017, Mr. White and his family sponsored me.
And then the next fall comes, and you're like, I want to come back. I get there, and there's no Gabriel.
Now, Gabe had a difficult story. He had already lost his parents. He had lost all of his grandparents.
The local team go to his home, and they find him, and he's been injured.
He got mugged, beat up by some people that beat him nearly to death. And with that, he suffered a number of lacerations. On finding him, he was very sick. That infection that started superficially from all those cuts that had not been attended had gone deeply enough that he ended up having infections in his bones. And one of those things that I would say was beyond limb threatening. His disease was indeed life-threatening.
All we can do is sit by his side and pray and encourage, and then Brad was there constantly.
We cleaned his infection up, and in fact, everything looked great on him except the infection had destroyed the top of his left femur.
Thankfully, there was room at the Tree of Life, and so Gabriel got to get out of the neighborhood and has full-time care.
When I went to Tree of Life, it was something great because I had a calm mind, focusing about school. That's when I knew school was important, yeah. To my house mom and my friends at Tree of Life, I think they are the best family I've ever found, yeah.
A year of recovery of infection, a year of getting sort of meat on the bones, kind of getting him ready for a surgery. But then you have to find a place that can do it. We first reached out to a city that has a hospital that's known for charity care. Well, the hospital came back to us and said, we'd love to do it. The surgeon was ready to do it, and everything was on track. Everything fell apart. Fourth week of camp this year. So this is late June, early July 2024. I sat down on a Wednesday morning, had clinic, had Gabe came in, and I said, Gabe, I don't know what we're gonna do. There's nothing out there right now. We're just gonna have to, keep looking, keep praying that something will break through. But I don't think you're gonna get a hip replacement in the next few years at least. We're talking about something that we'll have to look at. This is long term, maybe as an adult. Maybe this will come to Zambia one day. That's where I left him.
Brad, sort of just threw out there a couple of problems, and some great, wonderful Americans who happened to be in the room with him at the time said, well, I think we can help.
This is the afternoon after I had talked to Gabe about where we were. Met the Hindis. And, Ed, I remember we were in the reception of the Hill Wellness Center, and just a really neat guy. He's like, well, what do you need?
And he said, well, I've got this young man who needs a hip replacement. And he told me Gabriel's story. And he said, I had a deal set up in another city, and it fell apart at the last minute, and Gabriel's depressed and heartbroken, and I've got to find a way to solve that. And I said, well.
And he's like, well, I know some people. I said, where? And he's like, I know some people at Herman Memorial Orthopedic Hospital. I'll just talk to him and see where we go.
Literally went back to the villa and started sending texts to Memorial Hermann Foundation and to Dr. Alfred Mansour, and they both said this absolutely is doable. Let's figure out how to make it happen.
Took a couple weeks. Went faster than anything I've ever seen. I believe we turned in the application on a Friday, the payment posted on Tuesday, and he had an interview on Wednesday and was approved on Wednesday to have a visa to come to the United States.
I flew to Houston, and I had a hip replacement surgery. The procedures went perfect. The healing itself was such a great thing that I healed so quickly.
Sometimes these things come together, and it's certainly not for anything else other than to remind us that God is in control.
Only God. God has done this, and it has been magnificent to watch him work. We're so excited to see how God will use Gabriel.
The thing about Camp Life and Family Legacy that I think really sets it apart is the relationships.
Relational ministry is what we're about. It was clear to me 7 years ago in the hospital when I saw his sponsor meet him at the bedside, and I saw his smile of what that meant to him, that when he was sick, there was somebody there. It was phenomenal. And clearly, that's still the case today.
We're with Gabriel until the end. Whatever challenges he's going to face, we'll be praying with him, we'll be talking to him, mentoring him, teaching him, hopefully, watching him grow up into a man who loves God and who, changes Zambia.
And it makes me really happy and very encouraged to kind of see it play out. The coolest part about working in the setting that we do, when you see that vulnerability play out medically and you see a kid who gets better, and then you see them minister to the person who comes next. The neat part about Gabe is he's got the stuff already in him, that leadership potential, as well as just this great heart and what God's doing through him, through the ministry that's really ministering to him and discipleship. You're starting to see that Christian leadership come out in a way that I know that when he's restored, he will be one of those who reaches back and says, it's okay. It took 5 years, but in God's perfect timing, this is what happened. And it's not just my hip. Let me explain to you about relationships. And I look forward to seeing how he shares that as a young adult, and look forward to the story over the next 10 to 20 years.